Previously on the Jay and Dan podcast.
So I listened to ones about murders and cults, and it's all very depressing. I'm like, give me some BPM music.
Are you okay? If you were in Amsterdam for 6 weeks, that I know for me, probably a 78% chance that I'm dying there.
I may die in Orno any day. He'll go on 4 dates with someone, and then guess what, guys? I discovered she was a dog.
And then I discovered I'm into dogs. That dog and I are now married.
Dan, the dirty old man, washed his face in the frying pan.
What is that from? They said, what room are you in? And I said, 518. They said, yeah, that person's checked out. I'm like, that's me. I'm not checked out.
But they thought you had checked out.
Yes.
Well, why did they think that?
Because it was past noon.
Okay.
But I'm like, I'll get a spiced rum. I'm like, do you have Sailor Jerry? He goes, no. The only Sailor Jerry here is me. I'm like, well, he goes, yeah. I served in the Navy. My name's Jerry. And he had a tattoo of a boat on his arm.
Turn around and run out of there instantly. I would not engage with that guy.
Nah, he was
for
good.
A second. I'm Tom Strangewood.
You're listening to the Jay and Dan podcast.
All other podcasts are about murders and cults except this one.
Dads.
It's Family Day, but it's not Family Day everywhere. It's the most confusing holiday of all the holidays. It's a reason to have a day off in February. That's why they created it. I love it. But it's not the same everywhere.
Especially if you work for Bell Media, you're not getting the day off.
Well,
everyone here is working. Well, is everyone during the day working? Stoff, you work during the day.
Yeah, I believe everyone's here.
Everyone's here.
Yep.
And so Bell Media is based out of Quebec. They don't celebrate Family Day in Quebec.
No, the French do not like families.
So unfortunately for us, that means no taking Family Day off.
well, I think it's common knowledge. We don't get any day, no holidays off.
No, we get nothing.
You always tell this to aspiring broadcasters. When other people are out having fun and going for dinners and stuff, You'll be working.
Yeah, you'll work when everyone else is off. That's what someone told me in the very beginning of my career. Never forget it. Surprised I didn't immediately go into some other profession.
Yeah, you could have been a pharmacist.
Could have been a pharmacist. Could have just waltzed right into a very successful small-town pharmacy and then maybe purchased other pharmacies, created my own mini chain of pharmacies, and eventually purchased the Edmonton Oilers from Daryl Cates and put in my own GM, of course, Peter Chiarelli. He would have been my choice.
Not, eh?
That would have been my choice.
But I have a vision of you as a pharmacist, so someone would come to the counter, they're like, can I talk to the pharmacist? And they'd be like,
And I'd be like, that's me! What's wrong?
No, you'd be slouched in a chair behind the counter, passed out.
Yeah, because I'd be abusing all the medication behind the counter.
What? Who needs help?
You want some Oxy?
It has changed my life.
I've got it here for you. Yeah, I didn't want to do that.
Mr. Onright, do you sleep here?
It seemed boring. It seemed like a boring job.
It's a lot of counting.
Yeah, my dad always said, all I do is count pills. He didn't like being a pharmacist. He liked owning his own business, but he didn't like being a pharmacist.
They have cool contraptions. I always like when they're counting them out back there.
Oh, it's just a little plastic thing where you have it's like a butter knife.
Yeah.
You use to separate them. And it is weird, though, and people have brought this up to me before. I'm not here to condone any drug usage of any kind. But it is weird that I didn't at least just wander back there a few times and just open up a few things and just see what worked for me.
Because back in the day, they wouldn't have the same restrictions. You could have done that.
Well,
I
worked there since I was 14. So there were many nights where I'd be sent down there to pick something up or sent, for a delivery at a nursing home or something. And so I'd be alone in the store all the time. So I easily could have just gone to the back, cracked open a few things, grabbed a couple of pills from different bottles.
I love this ass.
And just, gone to town. Or at least just tried a few things. I was a little too uptight back then. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're a kid with access to a pharmacy, give a few things a try.
I worked at a convenience store, and I had access to products, and I would take cheese curds out of the cheese curd packages and put them back in the fridge.
Okay, that's wrong.
Well,
That's disgusting. Why not just take the whole package?
Then the guy started following me around the store.
Because you were taking individual cheese curds. You're just popping them in your mouth, eh?
Yeah, I'd be back in the fridge, and I'm like, I'm hungry.
You know what the problem was? He was squeaking while you were chewing them, right? And then that guy was like, wait a minute. Old Squeaks O'Toole here thinks he can pull a fast one on me. He can't.
He was smart. He never let me work the till.
Yeah, I would never let you work.
That was the job. I've mentioned
any
it before. I went on a vacation with my family for a week, and I was supposed to work on the Monday. I didn't show up. He didn't call me, and we just parted ways.
I like that. That's a good way to end an employee-employer relationship if it's not working out. You know, one thing I also remember working at the drugstore, we sold cartons and cartons of cigarettes at that store.
Oh, that would have been the heyday.
Oh, man. We made a brisk business.
Players, DeMaurier.
DeMaurier
Those
lights.
dollar bills, y'all.
Absolutely. We crushed it with
And darts
cigs.
would have been cheap back then.
Well, I guess relatively. I mean, at the time, they didn't seem cheap, but yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get into smoking, too. Maybe I'll do all that later in life. Get addicted to pills, start smoking.
Dude,
Why not?
Yeah, when you're in your 80s. Yeah, you don't have much time left.
How about next week?
Nah.
Producer Tim can loan me some cigs.
No, I need all of these. I can't loan you. Sorry. I need these.
Did you ever try smoking?
No, not really.
I did. Back in my rebellious days, I'd go to high school parties. I'm like, yeah, I'll have a dart. Men, feed my mouth.
How many cigarettes did you consume? Like, was there a time when you were like, sort of a social smoker, a person who smokes at parties?
No, it was like after I had like probably 2 beers, I'd be like, whoa, I'm feeling loose.
Cig time.
And then once at home, I snuck a cigarette from my brother's package, and I went out to the field to smoke it. And I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna smoke this and inhale it. And I threw up a lot, and that was the last time I did it.
The last time I ingested any tobacco, I remember it was rolled. My friend, she liked to roll joints with tobacco. Like, she was a smoker, so she liked her joints to have a little bit of tobacco, a little bit of marijuana in it. This is like 20 years ago when we were in college. And I remember I literally never smoked a cigarette in my life. I remember taking a hit of that joint and being like, Jesus, fuck, so it feels like someone's sticking needles in my lungs.
It has changed my life.
Like, it hits you kind of hard, you know? It's not smooth. It's not like smooth like you think in the Marlboro ads.
No, it's not smooth at all. So we're here to tell you, don't smoke.
Yeah, don't do it. It's not worth it. All those anti-smoking ads when we were young really worked. Nancy Reagan, Punky Brewster.
Throwing up was what did it to me.
Yeah, vomiting. Yeah.
I was so lightheaded.
Isn't that how
I still remember it.
the old school dads used to do it? Yeah, they'd catch you smoking, and then he'd lock you in a room, and you'd have to smoke a whole carton or something. Like, that's insane when you think about it.
I still see people driving on the highway, windows up, smoking.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's Tim, for sure, on his way home, stewing about something you said.
Tim's going to be so mad at you.
Why?
Because he's not going to like you talking about him smoking.
That's true. Sorry, Tim. Secret's out.
So,
You're a
Stoff,
big dart guy.
in post-production, change Tim's smoking darts to crack.
And then
He'll be fine.
change marijuana to heroin, and change pills to ketamine. And that should cover everything and keep us out of trouble.
Perfect.
Hey, you know what? Right now we've got curling on in the studio.
Uh-huh.
That is about the only winter sport I didn't partake in this past weekend. Went skiing, skating, tobogganing.
And you
That's
are
crazy.
you're jumping on this ski train big time.
Uh,
I saw the hill you're skiing on, though.
I showed you a video of the bunny hill with my daughter.
It looked like my driveway in Athabasca.
It was I took the girls skiing for the first time. Disaster start. Both of them like, yeah, I got this. Go down to the bunny hill. And it was like watching Manny Osborne parodies crash. Like they're into the catch fence.
Can you imagine if it actually was like that? Like they're just flipping and flopping and you're like...
When we got home, I showed them
fail.
like Olympic wipeouts. They're like, oh my. I'm like, that's how bad it can be. So look, you guys did great.
Dial it back, kids. Quit trying to be a daredevil like Dad on the first try. Yeah, you're really, you're a big winter. You like to get out and do stuff in the wintertime. I like to stay in and do nothing.
No, the kids sitting and watching their stupid YouTube videos. I'm like, get the hell outside right now.
It's all about YouTube. Like this, have we talked on the podcast about Blippi?
I don't believe so. Have we?
So Blippi is like the #1 kids YouTube star. Mm-hmm. He just is a guy, about 30, wears like a funny beanie hat, suspenders, orange glasses. And he just goes to like children's museums and plays, or he goes to like a chocolate factory and learns how to make chocolate. And, you know, he's fine. And then last week, BuzzFeed, classic BuzzFeed gotcha journalism, found out that when he was in college, he may have shot a few videos where he projectile on his friend's chest. Just took a projectile on his friend's chest and now I don't know who's interested in these videos or why they did it, but yeah, so they're, you know, I don't know if the BuzzFeed journalist was like, all right, I'm taking down Blippi.
So is Blippi done?
No, this is the thing. All the comments on the initial tweet from the BuzzFeed journalist were all from parents, and every single one was like, who f***ing cares?
Some tasty vegetables.
Yeah.
They were really healthy. But I'm really full now. And after you eat a nice, healthy meal, guess what you get to eat next?
Dessert.
Yeah, dessert. And today, we are at Boom's Candy in Issaquah, Washington.
This is a good one.
This is going to be so tasty. Come on.
Okay, so this is the thing.
And
That's that's every video.
How many
400 million views or something like that. It's insane.
Stop. How many does that one have there?
I can't see it right now. It's telling me to go to YouTube Premium for some reason.
Oh yeah, it's high end. Why can't
3.6 million.
Yeah, it's crazy. He makes an incredible living doing this.
Wow.
But the best part, yeah, the parents are just like, who cares if someone like he wasn't like a neo-Nazi. He's not doing hate crimes. He's just on his friend.
Was the friend a willing participant?
I don't know, probably. It was something they did for kicks. But all the parents are like, don't care. He gives me 20 minutes peace a day. I don't give a I don't care. That shows you parents' priorities.
Yeah, keep
Blippi.
those kids entertained.
Leave Blippi alone. We went out to an amazing concert on Saturday, Dan.
Okay,
My whole wife and I.
I have a few things to ask about that, but go on.
My wife.
Go on.
Well, yeah, it was Arkells, who've been on our show. Max and Nick, I believe, have been on our show. Tim Oxford has also been the drummer. Remember we gave away Tim's Hotmail address?
Tim Oxford at hotmail.com. Yes.
He was crushing the skins. By the way, our guests today are Jeremy Taggart, speaking of great drummers. Jeremy is a very good friend of Tim's, and Jeremy was also at the concert. And Bob McKenzie, who was also an Arkells fan and also at the concert.
He went back-to-back nights.
He was in Kitchener, and then I think they went to Ottawa on the Friday, and then he went to Saturday to Toronto. But yeah, he's a massive, massive fan.
So they sold out.
They sold out Air Canada.
The former Air Canada.
Oh yeah,
Center.
sorry, Scotiabank Arena.
Scotiabank Place or Arena.
They sold it right out, like whatever it is, 18,000 or whatever. And yeah, it was incredible. Like I don't know all their tunes. Is what I discovered was, again, my wife. She's like, I want to go to this show. And Max, the lead singer, had already said, you guys have to come to this show. So I was like, great, I take her out. I'm a big hero. She knows every one of their songs. She's like a super fan of Arkells.
So that means she wanted backstage.
Oh yeah, big time. She had her eyes on Tony, the keyboard player. At one point he brought out a keytar. It was great, like Nick Rhodes from Duran Duran.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask, I haven't been to a concert since weed was legal in Canada. Was there a lot of weed being smoked?
Yeah, I definitely could smell a ton of it in my section.
Okay.
But it was the vibe there, and I think Taggart will agree with this. Their music is very, you can sing along to it. Like the choruses are very catchy, and the whole crowd knew all the words, and they were singing like along to every chorus. It was really a great atmosphere for a concert. And you could tell like everybody knew the old songs, everybody knows the new songs. They've done it the right way because they've been doing this for like a decade. And the local alternative station, 102.1 The Edge, really got on board with them early and, pumped them up. And they've kind of step by step become, I think you'd have to call them the biggest band in the country.
If they're selling out arenas, yeah, they're making bank now.
Massive money. They sold out all these arenas across the country. Rogers in Edmonton, Rogers in Vancouver, the Saddle Dome, all that stuff. So yeah, it was a great show. They were really, really good. But I saw Taggart before the show and then didn't see him after the show. He went to the after party. We went to, Bar Isabel.
You went to dinner, late night eats.
We were hungry.
That's
We were just
understandable.
hungry, yeah.
You weren't tempted by some street meat?
No, those days are over for me. Street meat in Toronto. Phil Kessel styles. Do you think Phil ever really did eat hot dogs on the street?
Where is the banana hot dog?
Sure.
Tikkanen definitely did.
I had a hot dog outside of Canadian Tire last week. Delicious. Actually, I had a sausage.
Come on, it'll be fun.
And I must have looked like I hadn't eaten in my life. I was walking through the hallways of Canadian Tire with mustard all over my face, looking for a ski helmet. And the guy's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like,
Look away.
and I contemplated getting another one on the way out.
Wow, what are you? Yeah, are you okay?
Dan, the dirty old man.
Are you okay? Like,
Who opened for the Arkells?
it was a band called Lord Huron, like a American band. They're good. Yeah, alternative group. But that's the other thing. Like Max was very like Bono. He had like a long runway type stage in front of the stage, where he went out and would talk to the crowd. And yeah, he was a really charismatic frontman.
What did they talk about?
He talked about they did a really cool fundraiser, like if you had used coats, winter coats, boots, that kind of stuff. They wanted to get a bunch of that stuff, so they did a great fundraiser for that. They went into the crowd and sang "Happy Birthday" to a young girl, which was really cool. Yeah, and I think it must have been overwhelming for him because he's a Toronto born and raised guy, So just think of that, he went to Harvard Collegiate, downtown Toronto. And then he's playing Scotiabank Arena. He's the headliner. Like, it's pretty amazing to think about.
Did he say it's good to be home?
Oh, yeah. Lots of times. And then he'd make, references. He'd be like, let's make this feel like Sneaky D's on a Wednesday. And I'm like, okay. Sounds all right.
Sneaky D's still open?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
That's a club in Toronto that you go to see bands?
Yeah, bands play there. It's like, or you go there for late night nachos. Like they're open late and they make good nachos. And so if you've been out drinking, it's a great place to go after. The nickname is Sneaky Disease.
I didn't know that.
They probably have had some issues with, I don't know what. I just always know it's been called Sneaky Disease. But I would highly recommend it, right at the corner of College and Bathurst. And then he referenced another one. I can't remember what it was.
When I think of bands talking to the crowd, I think of Nickelback, and I saw them in Vancouver. I've been all around the world, and still the best weed I've ever had is right here.
Yeah, Poison did that in '87 when I saw him at Northlands Coliseum. Bret Michaels cracked open a Molson Canadian and was like, Canada makes the best beer in the world, man. And we're all like, yeah!
He's drinking Wildcat.
You're amazing! Triple X!
Remember we saw Bret Michaels, didn't we? At the NASCAR
we
Awards?
saw Vince Neil.
Oh, I always confused all those guys.
Kind of the same thing.
He was
He was drinking Pinot Grigio. So he was at that stage of his rock star life. He'd done all the drugs.
There was still like 2 hours left to go, and we were done, and he's coming out a side door.
Yeah, he was crushing some Pinot Grigios at the Wynn Hotel bar. Yeah, that's how you do it.
You're a rock star. You're allowed to do whatever you want.
I was listening to those guys actually last week. They came on Sirius, and they were great. Nikki Sixx could write a hell of a tune. Taggart probably hates them. If I know Taggart, he doesn't like that. But he is on the line now. Jeremy Taggart.
Well, let's ask him if he hates them.
Are you, Taggart? Do you despise Motley Crue? Like, or can you get behind them in an ironic way, or do you just like them from your youth? There's got to be like one answer there.
Well, I never was a fan. They were on the cusp, like, of the glamour stuff. Like the
they were the core of it.
Yeah. Like, to me, like Van Halen, I can handle, but like Motley Crue is over the edge for the just for the
Van Halen was like late 70s, so they kind of predated the super hair metal
they
era.
Were more, but I'll give like Motley Crue, they were good. Like, they're a good band, they're good players and stuff, but just I wasn't my bag, that's for sure. Just a little bit, and the whole like party girls stuff, like
they were
a little played out.
They were. Did you read that? You got to read that book of theirs, The Dirt.
Well, they have that movie coming out. About that, right?
Is it coming out on Netflix or something?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
I saw Motley Crue for free in Vegas, and after 3 songs in, I'm like, I think they're playing the same songs over and over.
Yeah, and Vince Neil's awful. He can't sing at all.
We were just talking about him. We saw him crushing Pinot Grigios at the Wynn Hotel bar.
Well, I remember a story. My favorite story was Bob Rock was doing the Dr. Feelgood album with them, which is a great album.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. It does. Yeah.
They were like sober during that album. And one night at dinner, they're like, okay, they finished the record. Let's just have one glass of wine. Okay, just one glass. So they have like one glass of wine, and within like 2 hours, Nikki Sixx is on like his phone trying to get heroin to his dealer, and like three of them are gone for like 3 days, like right off the deep end.
Just waiting for an excuse to do it, just to floor it.
Yeah.
Floor it.
And another time when they were sober, Tommy Lee went to a strip club with Bob, and Bob wasn't drinking at the same time, so they tried to get drunk on near beers.
Oh no!
So he had like 30 near beer, and he was like, "Oh, Rockhead, my stomach's killing me, man. I'm not feeling this all. Let's get out of here."
30 O'Douls later.
There's an actual commercial out right now. I think it's for Heineken non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
And the guy gets pulled over by a cop, and they're like, well, I'm okay because I'm drinking a non... Who's driving around drinking a near beer in their car?
Especially a warm... Like, let me tell you, if you're having near beer, it's got to be ice cold.
Yeah.
Some sitting in the sun.
He's just got him in his glove compartment.
Hey, how was the Arkells concert?
Fantastic. Yeah, me and Jay were there. It was a great show, man. Hey, Jay?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, they were really tight. Like, I always think of you watching these bands, Jeremy, like you must... I don't know, can you get lost in the music, or are you just analyzing the players themselves and how well they're playing?
Well, yeah, for me it's different with them because I saw them from their inception. I'm knowing Tim, the drummer, since he was 15. There's a huge history with those guys. So just to see them doing so well and filling a place like, Scotiabank Arena is ridiculous, and across the country selling out arenas, that's not normal for Canadian bands to get to that level. So they're kind of, they're on that level that just kind of transcends most bands.
Well, they were at the level that you guys were at, and you said to me that they connect differently. Can you explain that? They connect a little differently with the audience there, in your opinion.
Well, it's like, that there's an element that with their music that it's commercial enough to appeal to younger people more than like the hip or even OLP did. There's an element of their music that there's a pop element that brings them to like kind of another level, which is it's great because it really gives them their own thing, you know, and that they definitely have that. So it's just I can't imagine how difficult it was for them just to kind of get to that level, other than just the fact, you know, they did work their asses off. Like when I was producing their demos early in the day, and they were playing to nobody and at the Casbah in Hamilton, but they were rehearsing 6 days a week at that point, you know, so they deserve it, but they really did work. They do so much extra stuff, like all the PR press stuff, going after shows to play at people's houses and doing great charity work. It's just awesome.
It must
really
be
great.
It must be a real leap of faith when you do an arena tour, because there's no turning back. So you have to have that much confidence in yourself that, we can sell at this arena.
Yeah, and it's a big show, too, like the production, like the pyrotechnics and, the bombs with the confetti. Like, they went all out, and people that went to that show probably felt like they got their money's worth plus, you know.
And I kept thinking, like, they played a lot of songs. Like, I kept thinking, okay, they played Ottawa the night before, they played Kitchener the night before, like just Max alone singing. Like, you must not talk to anyone after, because you just got to save your voice mostly.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's always been good with that too. I think they're just smart. You know, those guys, they know how to do it. Kudos. It's one of those rare situations to be able to say you're a Canadian band playing in arenas.
So, Jeremy, you must have in your career seen a band where they embark on an arena tour and they say, "Oh, we overestimated our popularity."
Oh, well, I mean, I was on remember that band Candlebox? They were like grunge era, 94, 3. They're huge in America. They sold like 5 million records on that one album. But anyway, like they were big, but they just got to arenas, and we were opening for them. It's like the first show was at like Auburn Hills at the Palace, right? Like packed. And then like towards the end of the show, the tour, we were in clubs. They went from like arenas to theaters to clubs in like 2 months.
And like, was it palpable? Like, was everyone talking about it, or was everyone like, "Don't talk about this"?
Well, it got to the point where like we're sitting in a club and they got like road cases with their clothes, the dressing room clothes. You know what I mean? Like you're playing Lee's Palace and there's like road cases with like shirts in there.
Oh my God!
You know, like they had the road case that opens up and it's like a TV and the stereo and all that stuff, like Rolling Stones style backstage.
They've got their life in there.
Well, they were rolling with the big 2 18-wheelers at the beginning of the tour, and they still had all that stuff playing clubs.
What's Candlebox's big hit? Stoff, can you find it on YouTube?
Yeah, you guys can dial it up there.
Yeah, we can. I love
I'm sure
that.
if you just press Candlebox in there, they're still around.
Are they really? Yeah.
But
still doing their thing.
They were kind of like the original Creed, if you will.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like they kind of were like Pearl Jammy, but like
but not good.
On the wave.
We were talking about Eddie Vedder a little bit. Like, man, that guy, I can't believe he's almost 60. That's what blows my mind, man. Like,
the surfer dude.
Yeah, he is. He's a surfer dude.
He's a water baby.
He's part of the Malibu Mafia with Chelios.
Those moms. Oh, he's a water baby.
Loves the ocean. She's a water lily. Loves the ocean. Can't get him out of there.
He gets to your house. Any guys got a pool here? Right away. Like, can I go swimming?
I just love the water. My name's Eddie Vedder.
I'm a water baby.
Does he live in Hawaii?
And Malibu.
Malibu?
He lives in the Boo.
I believe so, yeah.
Near Chelios.
Yeah.
Him and Chelly are big buddies.
And Kid Rock, I believe, is in their posse.
Think of that. threesome out on the
Well,
town.
Chelios, I went to Kid Rock's house with Chelios one time, and I got all banged up on moonshine.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Don't remember leaving.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Bobby Ritchie.
Oh, my God, Bob. What's that guy up to now? Is he running for, what is he going to run for
MAGA,
Senate?
Isn't he? He's all MAGA.
Yeah, hardcore MAGA. Yeah. Guess what, Taggart?
What?
Get ready here on Jay and Dan Radio. It's Candlebox.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know this song.
This is the part of the concert where everyone will be like, yes, I know this one.
How many people made love to this?
How many 90s babies were consumed?
Dan was kissing girls.
Oh, yeah.
Hey?
Dan was
behind the tractor pole in Peterborough.
Peterborough High out by the portables.
So many boyfriends.
Dan O'Toole behind the biggest monster truck with the finger blast.
So many boyfriends gave this to girlfriends.
Oh, my God.
On mixtapes, for sure. This was a mixtape staple.
Taggart took it to a whole other level right there. I love it.
He's singing along to the Beast Boys tribute act with his stinky fingers.
Oh, God. And he's got an unlit cigarette in his mouth because he's still deciding whether or not he may smoke or not.
I might act darts. I'm not sure. Let's just.
We were talking about that
cool.
earlier. Neither of us really. Well, Dan did more than I did. Did you go through a smoking phase?
No, never.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
No, never had the urge to hack darts.
Yeah.
I grew up smelling darts all around the house. And,
Right.
Right?
Yep. No, I get it.
Who was the drummer that had one hanging out of his mouth? AC/DC drummer?
Well, how about every drummer from 1962 from Ringo to every. Hey, so I was hanging out with Gil Moore after the show for a bit. I love Gil from Triumph. He's always a good time.
So you had your lighting guy from the OLP days hanging out with you there. You were hanging out with Bobby Mack.
Oh, we were talking to Bobby
McKenzie, who's going to be on in just a few minutes here.
He's a beauty, yeah.
He loves Arkells.
Yeah, he was telling me some funny stories about singers. We were laughing it up. Tell Bob, when you see him say, Jeremy, remember that awesome story you told him about singers, Canadian singers. We were laughing.
And Hodge was there.
Dave Hodge?
Loves him.
Yeah.
He's been on the Arkells bandwagon, like you, like from the beginning. He's been a big supporter of them.
He's like he probably knows every lyric of every song.
No one loves music that I know more than Dave Hodge does. Like, he just loves music so much. Why was Dave Hodge a Much Music VJ?
Yeah.
Right? You have Rick the
I
Temp.
think that would be funny. I'd like to hear him like getting hot about bands. Like, I don't know about these. I got so much press. That to me would be funny. That's a hot take.
Or remember the Wedge, Taggart? The Wedge?
Yeah, of course.
Strombo hosted it, and Suk Yin.
Clark Champness.
Yeah, KCC hosted it. It was a great show.
Yeah.
Hodge would have been great hosting that.
Suk Yin, she hosted that for a bit.
Yeah, Suk Yin hosted it for sure. Yeah, Hodge.
I think was it Chris Ward who started it, or is that like pre the Wedge?
He had like City Limits or something.
Yeah.
Remember, that was his show, and then I think it changed into the Wedge.
Into the Wedge.
Yeah, and then
they had that British guy. Remember that British guy?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have the Wedge today. We're going to talk about the coolest, hippest band.
That's a pretty good accent.
We've got the Fairs coming up.
Richard Ashcroft, the
with a sweet symphony track. It's fab.
The Wedge. They should bring that back. Toolsy, we could host that.
Well, Much Music, it now shows The Simpsons. I was watching The Simpsons on Much the other day.
That doesn't seem...
Well, the tools we could do is like summertime playlist jams, like, like Eddie Money and, all that stuff that you love.
A lot of Billy Joel in there.
The Wedge, it's just back-to-back tracks off Glass Houses.
Well, no, because you do the Wedge for the hipster jams.
Yeah.
You could go from Father John Misty into Queensryche. Dan's picks. Silent lucidity.
Actually, no, I'll just put Candlebox on repeat.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. You love it.
You're watching
doors
the
down.
Candlebox channel.
On No Surprises by Radiohead into Kryptonite by Three Doors Down.
Hey, Jeremy, I've got some great news for you.
What?
So every once in a while, Channel 30 on XM Radio, they devote to an artist. It was Billy Joel, and then last month it was Kiss. The Kiss is over. The Kiss run on Channel 30 on XM is over.
I didn't
Thank
realize
God.
you hated Kiss so much. I had no idea.
Well, they're the originators of just like, how much money can we make?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, that's what drives the whole show.
Yeah, we're going to sell out 2 original members of this band and not let them have any of the money.
And just how greasy Gene Simmons just
Yeah.
seems so greasy, like
Oh, yeah.
Trump style.
But, for a certain generation, like obviously if you were, between 14 and 17 years old between 1975 and 1978, and you're a guy.
Oh, my cousins love them.
Like
The
you are,
Hobbins.
like there's a lot of producers here, like maybe just a few years older than us, who are just bananas for that band still. Like,
They love
like
it.
defend them to the death.
I know, yeah. You say something bad about them, and they're like, "Who the you, man?"
Yeah, well, that's my childhood. Ace Frehley is my childhood.
You don't get it, man. All serious.
Yeah, exactly. That's no
Pushing
joke.
you against the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them there.
Yeah.
Don't go. You want to go?
All right, buddy, we gotta go. Speaking of going,
Getting in fights over Kiss.
that's TSN in a nutshell.
The black guy. What happened? I just said something about Kiss to Gary.
Gary.
All right, I'll see you, boys.
Miss you, buddy. Talk to you
See
soon.
you, Jeremy.
See you soon.
What a
That is
guy.
Canadian rock legend Jeremy Taggart.
Do we have our next guest on the line? Okay. All right.
One second.
All right. This is good. I love that we're going from that incredible interview with Jeremy to another incredible interview with one and only Bob McKenzie, Arkells super fan.
Bobby's got to start resting up. He's got, that's next Monday.
That's Monday. That's this coming Monday.
Oh, boy.
And we do a midnight show Sunday, midnight Eastern.
Oh, boy.
Then we have to be on air at 8 a.m. the next day for TradeCentre till 1 p.m. They wanted us to stay till 3.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave at 11. No, but because I'm not even joking. Like, by the time 11 rolls around, like, things might actually be happening, and then they don't come to us. And they're like, well, we might. You never know. Bob, like, can we just go home at 11 on Monday?
Sure.
Good.
Yeah, why
Perfect.
not?
All right, so Bob said it, so we get to go. Because everyone knows who really runs the show around here. But Bob, how was the Arkells show on Saturday? I thought it was fantastic. I was just talking to Jeremy Taggart here with Dan. He loved it.
Yes, I was looking for you. I didn't see you there.
Can I just tell a quick story? Max shouted me out in the crowd. He just said, Jay! Because he texted me after, he said, I just saw your tall ass to my left. So I just said your name. Yeah, it was a great show, and I didn't realize my wife was such a super fan. She knows every lyric, and I didn't know you were such a super fan. You've been to multiple shows this past week.
Yeah, I went to 2 shows, Thursday in Kitchener, Saturday in Toronto. It's funny because I'd never been to an Arkells show before, so I'm aware of their music for quite some time, but I think I really became a big fan after the Morning Report album came out. It was fantastic, and then obviously followed up with Rally Cry, so it's great.
And to see a Canadian band selling out an arena tour.
Yeah, you know what? And the whole, the whole thing's interesting to me because, I remember the first Tragically Hip show I went to. It was at the concert hall, whatever they call it, the concert hall, Masonic Temple right at Davenport and Yonge there. And it was between the Up to Here album and the
Road Apples.
Road Apples. And it was like this sort of life-changing experience for me because the first time you see Gord Downey. And so I haven't really seen anything like that since then. But the thing that jumped out at me about Max and the Arkells is just he's got so much charisma, and it's a really powerful show and really passionate, and you can see how they connect with the people. And the crowd in Kitchener was 7,000 plus or whatever, and everybody knows every word to every song. Same thing at Scotiabank on Saturday. It's incredible.
That's what struck me as well, Bob. I had not seen them live either, and the fact that the whole crowd, including, again, my wife, who I didn't know was such a fan, knew the words to every song, but they're such sing-alongable tunes that it makes it easy.
Yeah, they really are. And, and I have, my big problem is I don't know the names of the songs. And the only reason I say that is because I don't know the names of any songs anymore, because since we started streaming, see, when I was young, a much younger man, and you had a record or vinyl, and you had the album cover, or even when you got a CD, as I'd be listening to something for the first time, I would be looking at the CD and identifying the name of the song and listening to it, and I connected to. And now it's like you just put something on, and then you're doing other stuff, and you're listening to it, but I'm not honed in on what the names of the songs are. So some of the hits I know, but if you were to ask me to name like 5 or 6 songs off of the albums, I'd be struggling for the names.
Hey, Bobby, I don't know if you know. Do you know what Friday is?
The day before the Saturday, day after Thursday.
This coming Friday is National Margarita Day.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. It's in the it's in the winter here. Like I can't drink margaritas in the winter. That's my summer.
Yeah, you make a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. But apparently today, according to Matt Cause, our resident sommelier here at TSN, today is National Wine Drinking Day. So you can get behind that, Bob, for sure.
I could absolutely get behind that. And I had a lovely bottle of red on Saturday night with my son Sean. And so there you go. So we celebrated early on National Wine Drinking Day, because I don't drink wine on Monday if I can help it.
Well, maybe after this Monday, because you're going to be very busy this Monday.
Yeah, so I've got to stay. I've got to make sure I don't imbibe too much, because you never know, I might get called in to the office to the studio at the last minute. So I've got to be able to drive in.
So what's the week leading up to TradeCentre like for you? Are you working the phones? Are you sending text after text? Tell us.
I'm mostly letting Gregor and LeBrun do most of the work.
That's delegation.
I'm a 62-year-old man, and I'm very on in my career, so I chip in and I help out. But I think the young guys should do all the heavy lifting.
But is there a sense like you must feel good because you created this whole insider thing, and now I didn't
create it.
Well, you perfected it. You mastered it.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Bob,
I wouldn't say that.
Bob, come on. Let's not be modest here.
No, seriously. It's, I'm trying to think. But Peter Gammons, it's funny. The thing I found out was when I read, I don't know, did you ever read that really huge book? It's like the size of War and Peace or the Bible on the history of ESPN, like from day one.
The James Andrew Miller book. Those guys have all the fun or whatever.
Yeah. So it was really, really good. But what I discovered, and I didn't realize, was that Peter Gammons started doing work. He was working for the Boston Globe and baseball writer at the Boston Globe. And he started doing work for, I think, ESPN. I want to say it was like 1987 or thereabouts. And that's around 86 or 87 when he started. And that was right around the same time I just started to do a little bit of stuff for TSN when I was at the Hockey News. So I didn't realize. I just assumed he'd been there forever or whatever. And it was roughly around the same time that he started doing big crossover work. And I guess my trajectory was much slower than his.
I disagree. I'll respectfully disagree.
I have a question I've always wanted to ask, so I'll ask it now. During your storied career, because of your contacts, because of your knowledge, have you ever had serious discussions about going to work for an NHL team?
No, not really. The one funny story was Pat Burns when he was between jobs, And so we did the Leaf games, and Dave Hodge was the host, and I was on the panel with him. I'm trying to remember who else, but in any case, so Pat Burns, between jobs, joined us on the panel, and he, when he got hired by the Boston Bruins, he told me he was getting hired by the Boston Bruins, and he said, "Would you want to come and be my assistant coach?"
Wow.
And I go, "I couldn't be your assistant coach." And he goes, "Sure you could." He says, "My assistant coach, it's basically somebody to drink with after the game." And I said, "Well, I could do that." But I think he was mostly in jest, but whatever. Anyways, but yeah, I get that question a lot. Why don't you be a GM? And in fact, on one of my recent podcasts, somebody said I should be the next GM of the Edmonton Oilers, and I basically said, no, I'm not qualified for it. It's easy to be in a shadow cabinet and criticize everything and never have to take accountability for it, but it's quite another thing. You got to put the time and effort and all that kind of stuff into it. And if I had wanted to go into management, which, various times you think about it, and maybe now I look at it and say, oh boy, it'd be cool to run a team. If I had ever had real legitimate designs on doing that, 10, 12, 15 years ago, I would have got out of the media business and started focusing and working my way up through the hierarchy to try and affect that. But now, I mean, I want my summers off, and quite frankly, the job of general manager, it's probably never been a worse job to have. More challenging than ever with salary cap and everything else. But I see the pressure these guys are under, and it's no thank you.
And can I ask you an actual trade question? Matt Duchene, you've been talking about this for weeks, Bob. Yep. It was looking good. It seemed like it was looking good. There was dialogue between Duchene's agent, Pat Brisson, and Pierre Dorion. And then all of a sudden over the weekend, it seems now that's kind of stopped, and it looks like he's going to be dealt. And I feel like if you were a Sens fan, that's got to be so disheartening, because it seemed like he wanted to be there.
It is, and it'll get probably more disheartening if we start talking about Mark Stone in the same vein, and that's something that'll probably come up in the next day or two or three. We'll see which way that goes. But, I mean, you're right. For the longest time, it was all dialogue. All the dialogue in Ottawa that we heard about was Matt Duchene talking to the Senators. There was nothing on Mark Stone. Now, I will say that for the better part of the last couple of weeks, I had been saying, even before sort of the news of the last 4 or 5 days, that they're now talking trade with everybody on Matt Duchene. I had said on both guys, actually, I think it's much more likely for them to be traded than signed. And I got the sense on the Duchene negotiations that everything was being slow played, and that was fine with the club, and that was fine with Duchene. And it was almost like neither one of us wants to bring this to the pinnacle here and say, so in or out, signing or trading. And instead it's sort of like they just went to this soft middle ground of well, the dialogue's going, but and now they're going to trade him, but they've allowed themselves the opportunity because nobody publicly declared it's over. It allows them, if they want, and they got a trade in their back pocket, they could go back to Duchene one more time and say, well, the offer we gave you, 8 years, however many, $64 million plus or whatever it was. You want it or not? Because if not, we're going to trade you. And that's when somebody will say, but it doesn't play out in public. And so I don't know. It's tough for Ottawa Senators fans. There's no doubt about it. And it'll be really tough if they trade Duchene and they trade Stone and maybe even they trade Dzingel. And then you got to kind of weigh what they get back in return for those guys and say, okay, what's the prognosis for this franchise now? That's
what is a bright spot for a Sens fan? Because in Edmonton, it's dire there, but you've got Connor McDavid. You can pay money to see one of the best hockey players in the world. Ottawa, you get rid of those guys. What are you paying to see?
Well, Thomas Chabot is going to be a great young player. You know, and this is the sad part is that whether it's Duchesne or Stone or Dzingel or whatever the case may be, I'm sure there is part of them that looks around and says, you know what, Brady Tkachuk, he's fun. He's a visceral hockey player. He's going to be really good. And Thomas Chabot is already really good. He might win Norris trophies. You know, Drake Batherson is a real good prospect. Colin White's a solid prospect. You know, Alex Formanton's not a frontline guy, but he'll be there in the next year or two or three, and so much speed. And you know, they've got a nucleus of young kids that are really coming. And if they are, I got to watch all my tenses because who knows what will happen here. But let's assume for a moment that they found a way to re-sign Duchesne, Stone, and Dzingel, along with that core of younger guys that we talked about, and more on the way. And you know, it's not terrible. I mean, you know, you might envision that, you know, 2-3 years from now, it might be a pretty good hockey team. But I mean, the reality is that, as I've been saying for a while, it's a lot more likely that they'll be traded than signed. Although we got to wait for the official word on that on the Stone front, because as I say, I've been saying on all our TSN platforms for the past week, the Sens came really hard at Stone last week, and I think with a real good faith effort to try and get him signed. And I don't know what I can't sit here and tell you that it's going to bear fruit and that he's going to re-sign, but you got to allow for the possibility that, you know, maybe he'll get some traction and maybe there'll be more talks. But right now they've been playing games every other day, and I think they just want to get to this double off day between tonight's game against Chicago and Thursday's game against New Jersey, and we'll have a clearer picture then where Stone's at. But I mean, it's Eugene's plan of we're going to rebuild for 2 more years and we're going to spend to the cap for 5 straight years. You know, the rebuild's going to be a lot longer than 2 years, in my opinion, if Stone and Duchesne and Dzingel are all gone.
I know you despise predictions. You refuse to make them.
Yep.
Is it possible Mitch Marner might actually get an offer sheet this summer? It seems like everyone talks about offer sheets, Bob, but then it's like, well, what's the? Well, it's like Dustin Penner. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
It's like they don't really happen. But could it actually happen?
They don't, and we've talked more about it this year. And there's 2 reasons for that. And one is sort of a fraudulent reason to talk about it, and the other is a legitimate reason to talk about it. The fraudulent reason to talk about it is because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs who have so many restricted free agents. And even though Patrick Laine and Kyle Connor in Winnipeg are restricted free agents, and Braden Point in Tampa Bay, or Mikko Rantanen in Colorado, or Matthew Tkachuk in Calgary, that there's multiple restricted free agents who could be offer sheet targets, they never get talked about. And the reason, because they don't play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the media here, media and fans and everybody else tend to obsess about all things Maple Leafs. And so, Austin Matthews is going to get offer sheet. Well, no, he's not, because he's signed. Now, the legitimate reason why we talk about offer sheets, because I can tell you this with absolute certainty. There are general managers and people who belong to management teams of NHL clubs, and between myself and Darren Dreger and Pierre LeBrun and all of our guys who know this business inside out and talk to people on a regular basis, we know that there are general managers who have gone to their owners and said, we need to do offer sheets this summer. We need to get the green light on doing an offer sheet. And we know that there are general managers who are told by their owners, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Use whatever tool you've got in the toolbox. We're up for it. And I don't know why that's necessarily changed, other than there is such a good crop of young talent out there. So I don't know. And I used the analogy a while ago, and when I went to Ryerson a long time ago, there was a journalism professor by the name of Monroe Buck Johnson, and he was sort of your really old school newspaper guy. and I was working at the Ryerson, and we were putting together stories for the daily paper there at Ryerson, and somebody had a story about somebody else threatening to sue somebody, threatening a lawsuit against somebody, and it was our main story. We were going to do a big headline on the front page about it, and so good old Buck, who's long since departed this earth, he looked at the story and he looked at all of us and he said, "This is a really interesting story. It'll be a news story when the person who's threatening a lawsuit actually files the lawsuit." And it could be said that the same thing is true of offer sheets. So it'll be a news story when one of those general managers or owners that we're aware of that has been talking up the offer sheet game here during the season, when they actually file one, and then it'll be interesting to see who it is. And I mean, we've had other executives tell us it's not Mitch Marner who's getting the offer sheet. It's probably going to be Kasperi Kapanen who gets the offer sheet, because anything over $4 million, just slightly over $4 million, is just a second round pick. And so there's teams that think the Leafs could be in big trouble on one of those lower level deals that's not Mitch Marner. Anyways, long story short, I guess I should go back to Buck Johnson's advice and just say, it's a news story when it actually happens, not when someone threatens to do it. And they're not even threatening to do it publicly because they can't. They're just, but there's no question in my mind, the overall tone of management philosophy amongst many of the teams in the National Hockey League with regards to offer sheets, the tone most certainly seems to have changed over the last number of months.
So we won't have Berkey trying to fight Kevin Lowe in a barn.
That was bizarre.
Maybe we will. That'll be good.
Yeah, that's right. That would be entertaining.
Bobby, we appreciate it. We can't wait to work with you Monday and eat all your guys' catering.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Should be good. Yeah, it'll be fun. Another one. This will be. I think this is my penultimate trade deadline, so I'm looking forward to it.
Whoa, what? Really?
Yeah, probably. I'm getting near the end of the road for doing the full-time grind, so got to back it off at some point. So maybe, a couple more, we're done.
What? That can't be true.
Oh, it can be true.
We'll talk you out of it. Bob, this is awesome. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Anytime, boys.
It's Bob McKenzie.
Bob McKenzie. Thank you. And, yeah.
That was breaking news. Penultimate TradeCentre, Bob McKenzie. We broke a lot of news. Well, Bob did. We did nothing. Offer sheets, a thing. Penultimate TradeCentre.
I want a coffee.
Want a coffee and roll up the rim.
Roll yours.
That's crazy.
Oh, what's the Jeff? Can we do the Jeff Gordon thing really quick before we go? Jeff Gordon. What's the backstory on this? This was during a caution?
During a caution during yesterday's race.
Okay. This is Jeff Gordon.
Well, yeah, Eric's in seventh spot. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
They haven't scored.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a drop now.
Yes.
What'd you get over there?
Please play again. I won 2 straight to start, and I've been on a bit of a dry spell.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
This is really fun. Man, that was really great talking to Bob and Jeremy, like back-to-back incredible interviews.
Yes. You know what I realized? We have to work Sunday night and then come in for Monday morning.
Yes.
I'm coming back from Montreal on Sunday.
Ooh.
What have I done to myself?
Oh,
yes.
Man. You are going to be in a horrible shape. I can't wait.
Ugh.
But you get to go to some great places. You are dialed in in that city this weekend.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, have a great week.
Bye-bye.